Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Gunn Show. And for some of you who are just tuning in, what is the Gunn Show? Well, it's kind of like bringing artificial intelligence to life. It's the people behind the machines, those cold, dirty machines that all of you guys find that make everything on the planet. Well, we got some interesting characters behind those machines, and today I'm really excited to be here at Allendale Machinery in New Jersey. This is the Gunn Show. I'm with John, Andrew, and Travis. Each of them have a unique story, and we're going to talk a little bit about those stories and figure out, who's the coolest between the four of us. And it's definitely not going to be me, but we'll figure that out. So, John, it looks like you got the microphone in the hand in first, buddy. So let's tell the world a little bit about you, where you came from, how you got into it. Is it an accident? Was it on purpose? Sure. Are you even still liking it?
So, I don't like it. I love it. Started off pretty much growing up with helping my grandfather out. He was involved in manufacturing here in New Jersey, and he kind of taught me what a manual machine was, a mill and a lathe. And, but that was younger on in life, never really took it as a career path. Went as far as I went to Ithaca College, got a teaching degree, got into student teaching, realized, hey, you know what, I like kids, but if I was a teacher, I'd never have my own. And that was the point where I said, you know what, teaching's not for me. Long story short, went through almost a decade of doing construction and learned quite a bit. Ended up getting a recruiter position and knew here at Allendale Neil McGill, and we were talking about maybe filling some positions here. And I threw my resume, and said, hey, check this out. If you guys ever come up with a position, let me know. And, knew a little bit from my grandfather. And I was always a hands-on type kid. But yeah, I threw my resume, and it was about 3 months later, I'd say, I came on board as a salesperson. And, loved it. And
so you just kind of came from a world that had nothing to do with machining whatsoever and then said, well, let's maybe throw my resume in there and see what happens.
Absolutely. I always said, hey, this could be a good opportunity. The industry looks really cool, really interesting. Let's check it out. Not to make it sound easy. I did spend about 12, 18 months of hard studying. I was lucky enough, I was just married, no kids at that time, and I was able to just put in tons of hours learning what the industry was and who our customers were, what they do, and but it's been an awesome ride.
I'd like to say, I'd like to make a joke saying you're not the brightest crayon in the box, so if anyone can do it, but you actually are quite clever. And for you to put forth that time and learn the industry, it's kind of neat. So before getting into it, if you still remember those days, because you've been doing this quite a while now, what was part of the inspiration that said, maybe I'll look into that industry? For some of the people out there right now who maybe don't have a career path or don't like the career path they're in.
So in manufacturing touches, almost everything we do. Whether it's, the water bottle that someone's drinking out of, that mold, if it's a plastic bottle, that mold came from somewhere. The cars we drive, the clothes we wear, it's all part of manufacturing. There's plenty of avenues in manufacturing where you can focus on an industry that you have some sort of personal interest in. There's endless areas you can focus on, and it's all around us. When I was growing up, I didn't realize there was machine shops around. That just wasn't something I was familiar with. And now that I'm involved in it, I see where they are and how close they are and what we make here, and it's cool.
I'm with you, and honestly, I didn't really know about machine shops either, which is somewhat strange in the sense that I got either failed or kicked out of every foreign language class in high school, and by default went into the ag machining department, but never thought I'm probably going to do this for a living sometime. So I spent 5 years in vocational art and 0 years in Spanish, and still never thought, well, I might want to pursue that someday. So it's kind of interesting to see where our paths, move on to. So Andrew, if you don't mind, my friend, Tell me, I know a little bit about you. I think you're a pretty cool dude. I know that you're into like guns and motorcycles, and I think last time I was in this area, we shared a cigar or two. But tell me and our audience a little bit about kind of your background, how you got into manufacturing, and maybe a little bit of who you are today.
Sure. So way back when, before this journey all started, I was a diesel mechanic for tree service. And so that's where my humble beginnings were. I was always hands-on. I was always working on cars and trucks and stuff like that. So it kind of rolled into working for this tree service, and it, turning wrenches sometimes, and other times I'm feeding a wood chipper, I'm driving the truck, I'm splitting firewood. So very little to do with manufacturing back then. And then, so I went to Rutgers School of Engineering, got a mechanical engineering degree, which at that point in my life, everyone was like, you got to go to college, right? That's what people do. So I did it. I followed the line. And then I said, hey, you know what? How can I turn what I like to do into something I can really make a career out of? So ended up putting out a bunch of resumes, and one that came back was for an ambulance manufacturer. So they did sheet metal forming, water jets, that kind of thing, and they're building basically the whole box on the back of the ambulance. They're making the whole thing from start to finish. So I fell into that, started working with some CNC machines, and started to really pick up on it. I go, you know what, this is something I could do, this is something interesting. I'm still working with my hands, I'm not stuck behind a computer or a desk all day. So stayed there for about 2 years, I want to say, just sheet metal forming and doing that kind of stuff, welding, all that. And I said, you know what, I want to go a little farther, dive in a little more. So threw out the resume again, and a company came back that liked my background. I was hands-on, I was a mechanic, I was this, that, and the other thing. I wanted to be at the machine. And so they did prototyping, primarily for aerospace, defense, that kind of thing. So fell into that, started working on lathes, pretty heavily programming, setup, everything, start to finish. I was doing everything. So I really had to learn quick, and doing two-part setups, three-part setups. 10 was like a production run, and I'm breaking the machine down and I'm setting it back up. So I did that for a little bit, and really learned a lot. And then I said, you know what, let's go another step farther. So then ended up coming out that a friend of mine was friends with Neil from Allendale, and he ended up reaching out to him and said, hey, I got this guy, he's into machines. I know you guys are obviously into machines. So we ended up connecting on that, and made the leap to Allendale, and I've been here for about 3 years now, I want to say. And just one step up the ladder, it's never a dull moment. I get to work with brand new equipment. I get to work with different machines every day almost, so it's always challenging my skill set. And going from a wood chipper to, a $500,000 mill turn machine really grew my outlook on manufacturing and what kind of career path it can bring you if you're, committed to going down the road. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
So you went from being the machine to running the machine.
Exactly.
From programming the machine.
That's right, yeah.
And I don't know if you consider yourself a country boy or not, but your story about tinkering, I think resonates with a lot of people out there who I've spoken with previously, who tinker on the tractors or on the motorcycles or on their lawnmowers. There's a lot of those, rural kids that this is kind of a natural fit for them. And I've heard people say this time and time again. Maybe you agree or disagree. I'd love to hear your perspective on the story. But a lot of people will tell me, when I'm in manufacturing, whether I'm engineer, programmer, whether it's robotics, I've never really had a fear for having a job. And it's always going to pay, even at the button pushing level, enough to take care of a family, take my vacation, give me my health insurance. And there's pretty much, there's always going to be a roller coaster ride and everything in life, right? But for the most part, it's a pretty stable industry we're in.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that, and this year really was proof of that, 100%, with COVID and everyone's shutting down businesses and everything's going upside down, and I feel like I never really stopped working. If anything, we sped up, it just kept on going through, and that speaks to the power of manufacturing and the career paths that can go there, that, manufacturing has to happen. That John touched on before, like the things we use every day that you don't even realize, like the coffee cups we drink our coffee out of, the tables we put our stuff down onto, everything is manufactured by some sort of equipment. And behind that piece of equipment, there has to be an operator, a programmer, engineer, what have you. There's always a career there that has to fuel that. So that's a big reason why I think, this is a career to stay. Manufacturing will always be there as long as humans are on this earth.
Yeah,
So.
and before we get over to hearing Travis's story, to your point, and also to maybe connect with some of the kids these days, and I think there's a stereotype with whatever age we're in right now. I know millennials caught some crap for a while, and we always go back and forth with baby boomers, and I'm not even sure what the next generation is, right? But there is one thing that's somewhat certain-ish, is that we're developing more apps, and there's more technology, and a lot of people are playing video games, and the video games are getting more real. They're virtual reality type stuff, and there is a correlation, and I've heard this said by many people, between getting into robotics and programming, where you're kind of trying to beat your own cycle time, beat your own score like a video game, or
Sure.
setting up these robotics to kind of play with a more virtual reality video game. Do you find that, that there is a connection between the two worlds?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I catch myself doing it all the time, even when I don't have to. I'm down there making a part for a customer, and let's say it's a 2-minute cycle time, and I go, I could probably do that in a minute and a half. I could go faster, and the customer doesn't need it or want it. I just want to say I did that in a minute and a half for my own personal gain. So you find yourself tweaking it, and you're looking at your machine run, and you go, I can make that a little better. I can make that a little better, and then it starts to become an addiction where it's like you got to make it your own. You got to put your own little flavor on it, and I think any apps guy that's been in front of a machine can feel the same way. You're never satisfied. You're always trying to outdo yourself or outdo that other guy that made the same thing or something similar. You're trying to beat their score, and at its core, it is a video game. You're programming it. You're letting the machine drive itself, and you're behind it, making the magic and figuring out how to make it a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit cooler, a little bit more efficient, what have you. And, especially for today's generation of kids, that's it, faster, stronger, better. Everything's got to be one up by something else, and you could definitely do that in manufacturing if you got the right kind of skill set and the drive to do it, I would say.
Yeah, I'm going to apologize ahead of time for what I'm about to do, but that Kanye West song popped in my head. Harder, better, faster, stronger. That don't kill me will only make me. And I'm not even sure if those are the actual words, but hearing you say it.
Sure. Yeah. I wasn't even going for that, but.
He lives his life by that.
Yeah, that's it. It's constantly playing in my head.
So Travis, let's learn a little bit about you, my friend. Let's share with our audience kind of your story, where you came from. Obviously, the three of you are at Allendale with completely unique stories to each other, but we're all here now and kind of mostly getting along with each other, right? We kind of like each other.
Yeah,
so.
for the most part. Yep. Let's see if we can keep our hot streak here. Doing good here, no outtakes. But yeah, we'll save the best for last, right?
Absolutely.
No, my story's a little different than Andrew and John's. I actually kind of pursued this career from not quite day one, but for the most part. Just like these guys, as a young kid, I was always wrenching and fixing stuff and leaving my old man's tools out in the yard, getting in trouble. But yeah, when I was about 14 or so, 14 or 15, about to go into my, I guess it would be junior year of high school, my father, he said, because I was setting up to go to a vocational school. The last 2 years of high school, you could do, you could stay in school or you could do your vocational school, which is more hands-on. He said, you should do that and take this machining class. I said, I took a liking to it. I said, that's pretty interesting, especially, like you said, it's kind of related to the stuff I was already interested in. So I took his advice, one of the only times probably. No, just kidding. But and then my junior year and senior year, I went to VOTEC school for machining through one of our H-Tech programs, the Haas Technical Education Center.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you're aware of that.
Very aware, yes. They do a great job with education.
Yep. And through there, we had Haas machines. I got to know some of my bosses here today through that, Marty, Neil, Andy. And after I graduated high school, I went on to college, did a 2-year associate's degree, machine tool technology. My senior year, last semester, I gave Marty a call just to find out, like, hey, what shops might be hiring, what's a good place to work, and stuff like that. And they actually happened to be hiring at the time. So I said, well, what about you guys? And he goes, it's like like a light bulb went off. He goes, yeah, we would love to have you, blah, blah, blah. And so pretty much, yeah, graduated in April or May of 2008 and started working here a week later. That was 13 years ago now.
Wow.
Yep.
So in your 13 years of experience, and it sounds like you always kind of wanted to be a part of this industry. You know, at least you were tinkering. In your 13 years, what do you think has been your greatest struggle and your greatest success?
Oof, that's a tough question.
I like to ask the tough ones to get the realness from the people.
Some of my greatest struggles, I would say, is just learning things that I didn't know. Like electrical, for example. I know the red wire is the red wire, the black wire is, and you don't touch the two. But throughout the last 13 years, I got a very good understanding on, electrical and circuitry and stuff like that. And that's actually some of my bigger accomplishments, I would say, is just, when you hook up an electrical circuit that you drew up or you design and it works. That's a cool feeling, especially not coming from that type of background. Mostly wrenches and machining and stuff like that.
No fires?
No fires. That's another thing I like about electricity. It's it's usually either got it or you don't. There's no in between usually. But yeah, and just any of the cells, the robot cells that I've done, just seeing the ROI numbers and things like that makes me feel good about that type of stuff.
Well, going to school for it, and you said 2008,
2008, yep,
2006
and 2008, I was in college, yep.
So what do you think for your career so far, where you've seen the most growth in our industry? And that could be the field, it could be, aerospace is really doing something, or medical is really doing something, or it could be specific machinery, like, we're seeing a lot more automation, like you taught me about, previous to this podcast. From 2008 to now, what has jumped the most?
I would say medical. That one's always kind of been a pretty heavy hitter. I do have one customer that I don't know what industry it would be in, but probably back in like 2009, they had 0 CNC machines. We installed their first machine. I trained them on their first machine, and now since they've moved facilities, their staff has probably quadrupled. Went from maybe 10 people to 500 or something at this company, and
wow,
now they probably
impressive.
have close to over 100 machines.
No kidding.
So
in that same time frame.
And I saw that company. Like I said, I installed their first machine, trained them, and now they got hundreds of machines.
That's incredible.
Hundreds of employees. So and that's talking probably 5 years time.
That's one of the best growth stories in a short amount of time that I've ever heard, and I've heard some pretty good ones. Did you learn enough to know that we can start our own business and grow the same amount in 5 years?
Yeah, maybe.
I'll invest in you. If you invest in me, we can get this
yeah.
thing started. We won't even tell the other guys sitting in the room right now.
Yeah, that was a big one for me, and that was, one of them also accomplishments is just good to say, hey, listen, I installed their first machine, trained the guy, which is pretty much the boss now. Oh, I trained this guy, and now he is in charge of hundreds of people and all these different machines and stuff.
That was an incredible success story. I wish you would have told me that one earlier when we were filming.
Yeah. No, that was that's what made me think of it. Yeah, that was a good successful story.
Well, I want to ask you guys individually, and you can, tell the story or your perspective, as you wish and in your own time. But one of the greatest gifts of this podcast, I believe, or at least I'm really hoping to, is to connect with an audience that maybe needs some inspiration or, maybe doesn't have a path. I certainly didn't. I thought I was going to be a pro soccer player, and, that didn't work out because, 0.001% or something like that. So, yeah, it didn't work out for me. But what I would love for you guys based on, we got a teacher, we got a wood chipper, amongst other things, and then someone who meant to purposely be here, right? We actually have an engineer, not a wood chipper, guys, for those of you who are listening. Andrew is brilliant. Don't let me downplay his skills. But I think it's important that we connect to an audience because I do believe that maybe this episode, maybe the next episode, maybe the one after that, we're doing everything we can to connect to an audience who's right now maybe watching, the Cooking Network or E! Network or Sports Center or whatever it might be. But we want to be the channel where people go, damn, that's cool. And so to get it started, one of my favorite things in this industry is the unique things that change people's lives. And what I mean by that is, the person who can't walk or has back pain all the time or hip pain, that new hip replacement, that new bone replacement in their back that allows them to be more mobile than they used to be. The kid who has never been able to hear in their entire life, to know that we created a hearing aid that allows them to hear some noises that they've never heard before. The kid who's blind or colorblind that gets to see something or more colors or whatever it might be. The fact that I love to fly all over the world and I can do it faster, better, stronger. No, I'm just kidding. But we can do that better now in the aerospace industry. We see SpaceX shooting rockets into space, and I don't know if you're going to go or any of you are going to go to Mars to live, but it's a one-way ticket. So if you do, I'll miss you. But these things we are creating. This is our industry, and I think that we're passionate enough about what we do that maybe we can convey some of that passion to the kids to go, this is a good career. This is a good life. Let's reduce that skills gap. Let's be a part of something that's not going to be fidgety and unstable. Let's be a part of something that is going to create a better future for all of us. Science, medical, aerospace, whatever it might be. So the reason I'm being long-winded about it is I'm giving you all time to think about what your answer might be.
Right.
But now I will stop talking. So if you would like to go first, Travis, totally up to you. If somebody else wants to go first, but whatever inspiration you guys have to bring the chills to the people who are listening right now. It could be a personal story or just something you think you might would have wanted to hear when you were a child as well.
So I would say the thing I would want to share with my younger self, which I did a decent job with. I was never the A student. I was never the one that was top of the class. I did just well enough to get by. But a buddy of mine's father always told me, because I ended up working for him for a while, don't ever turn down the opportunity to learn how to make something. Don't ever turn down the opportunity to learn a skill. I think it's very important that whether it's manufacturing or not, if you can learn a skill or learn how to make something, it could be building houses. Learn it. No matter what, no one could ever take that away from you. The other thing I would say to point out to learn, business is involved in everything. So if you have the opportunity to learn how a business operates or how someone can take a product and take it to market and sell it and make money from it. Those are two important skills. Learning how to make the thing and then learning how we deal with items and what do you want to call it? Materialistic things. It may be, your phone. How did that product, one, get made and two, end up in my hand? It's one thing to be able to make it, but that just gets it on the factory floor. How do you market it? How do you get it to that person? The logistics of something. That's in everything that we touch. It's made, and it's some sort of path to get it to the consumer. I think those are very important things, and you don't have to go to school for that. You can take a job somewhere and just ask the questions. If you're, working at the local lumberyard, working at a bakery, learn how to make the goods that you're dealing with. Learn how, hey, this is what my boss is doing to, maybe it's an advertisement in the local paper. Maybe it's a radio commercial. Maybe it's a TV commercial. How did this product get from the oven? Say it's a cupcake. How did it get from the oven into the person that loves its hand? If it's lumber, where'd the lumber come from? Further downstream, further upstream. Where did it come from? What's it going to be used for? Just things no one could ever take away from you. Learn what's there. And if you're passionate about something, motorcycles, work in a shop. Learn how to wrench on the motorcycle. Learn, hey, where'd this motorcycle come from? How was it built? There's endless avenues you can take this, and you can always focus on something that you like. I like motorcycles. I like guns too. I like cars, and in our industry here in Jersey, there's a lot of different things that I'm not always dealing with a motorcycle customer, car customer, aviation, medical, but it's always changing, and that always keeps it interesting, and keeps me coming back for more. So just make sure you stay hungry, keep learning. And that's how I got here.
Stay, like you said, stay hungry and follow your passion, that kind of thing. Because you're right, you could be in just about any aspect of what we do, we can create, right? So if you're into, as you said, motorcycles, you can go build motorcycles. If you're into cars, you can do that. If you're into guns, if you're into medical, whatever it might be, there's certainly a career path for people who want to be involved.
Absolutely.
So to your point, I don't like to say I would argue because I don't like to argue.
Go ahead, argue. Go ahead, let's do this.
I would like to discuss, but I would like to say that as a general stereotype from outside industries, most people look up at, when you're in school and go, what are you going to be when you grow up? I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a dentist. I'm going to be an astronaut, whatever it might be, right? And there's probably still that stereotype, and maybe I'm wrong, where the manufacturing industry is somewhat looked down upon as being a dirty, grimy, labor job. I don't think it's that way anymore. It might have been at one time with manual machines and hammers and that kind of thing, but we're talking about state-of-the-art machine shops where you can eat off the floor. It's so clean. So I think it's important to also recognize that what we're getting into, in my opinion, is equivalent as far as status quo and the Joneses. Engineers are the equivalents of status quo, doctors, lawyers, these types of things as well. And I think it's important that we lift each other up to say these are careers we should pursue. They stabilize an economy.
I mean, there's people out there. One of the people I've followed since I was young was Jesse James. He made it cool to work with your hands, building motorcycles from scratch, tank and everything, frame. He made everything. You have people out there right now like Elon Musk. I mean, look at everything he's doing with SpaceX, Tesla. Whether you agree with the technology he's making or not, he's bringing to light it's almost like a science lab. You could eat off the floor. It's a clean environment. They're making things that are out of this world. I mean, literally, it's the stuff that they're making. It's not the oil dripping from the ceilings and dangerous machinery that you're leaning into. Although some of those shops are still out there, I'm not going to deny that. But you don't have to. You can choose your path, and if you don't like it, find a shop that you want to work in. It's the same thing with car dealers. I shouldn't say car dealers, car shops. You have the guys that may be a mom and pop shop that has tools all over the place, oil puddles everywhere, or you have the dealer that literally you can eat off the floor and every nut and bolt is accounted for and every wrench is in its spot. We have to pick our path and be accountable for ourselves at some point, but the opportunities are there.
Yeah, I agree, and that's very well said. Yeah, totally. Andrew, what kind of insight do you have for us? I'm ready to have my mind blown. Can you, we're playing the one-up game. Have you ever played the one-up game where someone tells a story, you go, yeah, but have you heard my story?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I tell people all the time, coming in and out of shops, I deal with a multitude of different styles of people, and they're at various phases of their careers. But I have people sometimes will run up to me from another machine. They see I'm working on one, and how can I do what you do? And I tell them, you know what? You don't have to be necessarily, an engineering graduate. You don't have to be a scientist, or you didn't have to be the valedictorian of your high school to go down a path of CNC machining. If you're passionate about it, get into it. Touching back on John's, Jesse James reference, if you're excited about building something with your hands, then go learn how to build it. You don't need prerequisites, and you don't need to be scared that, maybe I don't have all the traits needed to be this fancy computer programmer. Not really the case anymore. Nowadays, the barrier to entry is a lot easier to jump over because of the resources that are available for fresh kids out of high school or kids that are still in high school to start learning this stuff. Haas has tons of videos online that will pretty much train you how to run the machine without ever having your hands on one. And, those resources grow by the day. And I always tell people when they come running up, they go, how do I do what you do? I go, just get into it. Find a shop you like, pursue it. You don't need to be something extra. You just need to have your seat time, get into it, be passionate about it, and have a drive for it. And that's what's also exciting about the manufacturing industry. It allows you to jump over barriers that you didn't think you could before, just by giving a little effort. And that's something that excited me in the first place to getting into it. I said, throwing sticks into a wood chipper. I'm driving a crane around town, and if you told me I'd be making bone screws one day, I'd say you're crazy. No way, no way. I get back on my motorcycle and I ride around town. I go, no way I'm making bone screws.
Might
And
need some one day.
yeah, and here I am. I have people calling me. How do I make that screw a little better? And they're asking me for advice. The humble wood chipper. So it's get into it and get after it. That's what I like to tell people, because it's out there, and if you're interested in it, anyone can do it. Absolutely.
I love that story, and kind of to further that, a lot of people have the complaint of, sitting in a cubicle too long, or, the mundane, repetitive type of job that's, maybe a comfort zone because you know it, but also, come on, it gets monotonous after a while. I would say that with your career path, you get to see something new regularly and maybe never in a cubicle.
That's right. Yeah. I think I do physically have a cubicle here at Allendale Machinery Systems, and I think I sat at it for a grand total of 15 minutes this year. So it's so nice to not be bound to one spot and doing the same thing every day in and day out. You're doing similar things. You're still working with machines, you're still working with tools, you're working with different materials. It's the concepts are similar enough where you can get a basis of knowledge and build on it, but not so similar that you go, I already did that. I know exactly how to do that. It forces you to keep challenging yourself and to keep learning, because every day something new comes across that you might have not seen before, and you have to evolve, or even just the manufacturing industry itself. Machines are evolving, things are getting more advanced. If I just sat stagnant and I didn't force myself to continue learning, everything will pass me right by as the machines get more advanced. There are more axes flying around. I mean, on the Citizen we were looking at today, it's basically two machines in one, and next year they're probably trying out a third, set, and we'll be making 3 parts at once, 4, it just keeps evolving. So, not really sure where I was going with this, but
No, that's all right. It's good. And here at Allendale, you have some really great partners. Which,
absolutely.
I don't work with Allendale other than just I consider you guys friends. And previously at other companies, I've had great relationships and partnerships. So I don't know that what I'm about to say is true or not, but I think you will convey that it is. That partners like Citizen and Haas and Kitamura and all these robotic companies, Fanuc, I believe you work with as well. They're constantly updating their systems, which means you must update yours, and there's no, the comfort zone is constantly stretched, which is good, because sitting in a comfort zone too long, we get bored. You know,
That's
so
right.
so you have great partners here at Allendale that you work with that's constantly inspiring that next level of innovation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. And the other thing I find too is that I'm constantly evolving. Every time I have to learn a little more, it becomes easier. It becomes more natural to say, all right, I'm gonna pick up this new piece of technology and I'm just gonna learn it, you know, on the fly. I'm gonna figure it out. And every time I do that, the next time that comes across my plate, it's not so challenging. And I say, all right, no big deal. You go through the motions, you can figure it out. And it forces not only further learning, but also rewires the way your brain tackles problems, you know, and all that trickles back. You know, once I leave work, you know, I go home and I got to fix my plumbing, you know, now my brain's wired. All right, here's a problem. How can I fix it? How can I do this? Oh, I got to build something. Oh, I can build that. It's not, what do you mean it's not on the shelf at Home Depot? No problem. I can manufacture it, you know, so it opens up your mind on how you look at anything if you can take the manufacturing home with you too. You know, you can expand into more parts of your life with it. And it's, you know, something that I think I'm never going to stop doing it, you know, because now that's just the way I am. I got to go. I got to learn. If I'm sitting still, it, you know, drives me crazy. I got to be constantly sprinting forward. And you know, I feel like a lot of the kids today, that's what they're into. They got to be constantly stimulated and have something in front of them to do all the time, and something fresh and something that can excite them. And, you know, with the way manufacturing and machine tools are growing, there's more than enough there for you to learn and to get excited about, and to, you know, have something to keep you entertained for days on end.
Absolutely agree, and you made me think of that any of those memes where you go, wait, I'm not a plumber, hold my beer. You know, and then you take on that thing, right?
That's right.
Whatever it might be, and so that's a great attitude. Well, Travis, I've given you about 30, 45 minutes to think about your answer
Boy,
now
oh
after
boy.
passing the
Yeah.
microphone. So we're playing the one-up game,
Some
remember?
tough competition.
Stiff competition
Yeah,
here.
yeah. No, those are you know, good stories. A lot of good points. One story that's kind of going through my head here. I don't know if it's relevant or not, but yeah, sort of. Say about a year ago, when all the COVID stuff started going down, I was installing a robot cell. And the first week of shutdown, the electrician come in, and I noticed he had his son with him. You know, the kid was probably junior, senior year in high school. So I said, wow, look at this kid, you know, he's not sitting home. He's got a good work ethic. He's out with his dad now, making money, blah, blah, blah. And so fast forward, I was at the same customer here a week or two ago, installing cell number 3. So the electrician comes back, and his son's with him again. So they're doing their thing, and, you know, and same thing, I thought, all right, this kid, he's going to take over his father's business. But no, the father, he comes up to me, he goes, hey, listen, I'm trying to get my son into manufacturing. He goes, do you have any advice for him? You know, and I told me, like, aren't you going to be an electrician to take after your father, you know? Like, but now I said, listen, manufacturing is great. As like these guys said, you get to see all kinds of different stuff. You know, you learn new things every day. Even me, I still learn new things every day. And you'll never be out of a job, I told him. And that's another thing. You can pretty much go anywhere you want with manufacturing. I'm from the middle of nowhere, and there's still a machine shop in the town that I grew up in. So yeah, you pretty much go anywhere. You can pursue an aspect that you're interested in, and you'll never be left in the dust on the unemployment line, you know, for the most part.
Well, if
Unless you're doing something wrong. And, yeah.
If you crash too many machines.
Yeah, exactly. If you overstay your welcome a little bit. But yeah, if you got a good head on your shoulders and willing to learn, you know, there'll be that spot for you in manufacturing somewheres.
Yeah, and I think to your point, and you said middle of nowhere USA, there's still a machine shop, right?
Yeah.
I
I didn't know it when I was younger, but, you know, as I get older, you start to notice these things, like John mentioned. Oh, yeah, there is a machine shop here.
Yeah.
There's a machine shop there. You know, you look hard enough, you'll find it.
And to your point, I think the really cool thing about our industry, and we, you know, great discussions from all three of you guys about different backgrounds, is that I believe that when you go into specific fields, when you graduate school, and I'll go back to the doctor, lawyer type of thing, it takes a certain personality, right? And I would think there's specific personality types that go, I'm gonna save the world. I'm gonna be a lawyer. I'm gonna save the world, But in our industry, there's just so many different facets of it that we get the gambit of personalities. We got the guy that only wants to work on robots and never going to do anything but work on robots. And you got the guy that only wants to run manual machines. And the guy that only wants to weld and is mad that the robot's welding for him, right? When we talk about manufacturing, everything that we've talked about today, all three of you guys have brought up, spaceships and phones and cars and all this stuff. It is the full gambit of misfits and personalities and characters that we have. So there is truly no limitation to becoming the best versions of ourselves that we want to be by truly following a passion.
I agree.
And I think you've done a great job by coming out of the middle of nowhere. And which H-Tech Center did you go to?
It's actually no longer.
Oh.
Yes, I don't know if they had the kids sign up over the years, but that was Sullivan County, BOCES. I guess
So middle of nowhere,
County,
USA.
Yeah.
We should have stuck with that.
Upstate New York. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Well, I'm sure the guys at Allendale are, grateful to have you here and pursuing that path. And, all three of you, I really appreciate learning more about you and you spending your time with me. Time is, the one thing we can never have back. So I hope my time was as valuable for you as it was for me. And thank you for, hopefully inspiring the audience that we have at the Gunn Show to maybe just, taking a look, and different backgrounds, different people. So thank all three of you for being a part of it. And, guys, if you have any questions for any of these guys, you can Google Allendale, or what is it, AllendaleMachinery.com. Yep. And you can go there. You can actually, fly to New York if you're in California, meet these guys firsthand. It's worth the trip. But
Stop in anytime.
All joking aside, I appreciate you guys being here and helping me learn a bit more about where you come from and the industry itself.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.